Hello YouTube, Mariel here. Today is part 2 of Narcissist Strings Pearls. In my last video I talked about how my narcissistic husband in his multi-layered passive-aggressive covert attacks always results in several different emotional reactions as well as mental stress due to the perpetual state of confusion. What I really come to understand is that those incidents were not just simple, innocent, repetitive incidents. Those were premeditative, covert attacks with the goal of providing himself with his narcissistic supply. As a result of this new knowledge, I have named and color-coded my emotions to help me visualize them better in an attempt to help me resist letting go of my emotions for him to feed off of. I'm going to give, of course, another example of what he does quite systematically or repetitively, and also I'm gonna explore more of his feeding pattern and as well as my reaction to those different level attacks. So for instance, there's been a few incidents along the years that turned out to be particularly difficult to handle for no reason. At the time I thought they were difficult situations for no reason, but now I know he actually was behind the scenes and exacerbating everything or making everything worse. And here is how relenting my husband is in his drive to feed himself and to feed off of me. So even after years have gone by, in an innocent conversation, in an innocent way, he'll bring up a past stressful incident, forcing me to reminisce and to ruminate over it with the aim to reopen the scar tissue. Now, of course, at the time I didn't think, I would never have thought he was forcing me to actually to go back and revisit those incidents, because he would he approaches me nicely and just in normal conversation, so I would just go along, so there's no forcing. But now I can see he was literally forcing, manipulating the event to make sure that I would remember, but not just remember, but reminisce over that stressful situation. And the minute I would say, and I go and say, oh yes, and I'll say innocently, oh yes, I remember, this right away is a signal. This signals him right away that literally it's open season, or it's like open sesame to him. And this is what will happen every time I fell for it, and every time I said, oh yes, that yeah, I remember. So even if the incident itself did not cause any particular damage, or my brain did not store it, or my brain just stored it as a freakish incident, well, my husband, the narcissist, will literally get a knife and start creating a wound while looking and acting displeased with the memory too. And even that action or that appearance of being displeased with the memory too is nothing more than a way to create a false intimacy, to carry on with the conversation, and it is also a fake attempt at in false empathy. The emotions that, whether it's empathy or intimacy, that is creating to lead you into that conversation is completely false and completely manufactured. Then within that same sentence, my husband would start telling me almost straight away how the same thing happened to him, in his travels or at work, and how he was able to deal efficiently with that problem, just like that. So every time we came to that part in his story, I couldn't help but feel inadequate or stupid, really. I have like a flashback, and I'll be like thinking, inside my head, thinking, hang on a sec, you were there when that happened, and back then you did nothing. You didn't help. You never came to the rescue. And then I'll pause in my thinking inside my head. But once I remember the facts of the story, and I remember the scene and his position and what it did or what it didn't do at the time, the conversation itself takes on a different feel. Suddenly the conversation will go from feeling comfortable to feeling uncomfortable. I will even end up feeling unsure of how to feel. I mean, already just by this stage, I've already would have felt several different emotions. Then again, I'll go on choosing to suppress my emotion to avoid ruining the evening or the time we were just sharing that he kindly and nicely, I thought, he initiated. But even after I would suppress my emotions, I'll still feel extremely confused, because the whole broaching of the subject would feel to me as being insensitive on his part, not very nice, especially when he brags about how he handled it better and he sorted it and it worked out just fine for him. But then again, even if I got upset at that, I would still remind myself that it's no big deal. So despite my good intention and resolution, there's, the feeling will still remain, and I will not be able to shake it. And quite frankly, I still have no name for it. But I guess it'll stem from my brain. I guess it'll stem from my brain trying so hard to reconciliate my knowledge of Mr. Nice Guy that I love, and the beloved person in front of me who is insensitive. And having those two different persons, one in my mind and then the one in front of me, and being confronted with those two kind of people, will lead me to question myself constantly. Either question myself and ask myself, is it trying to make me feel better or not? And those are flashes of insight or flashes of thoughts, internal thoughts. You know, they come and then they go, and then they go so fast, and then something else happens or it does something, so you kind of forget and you just don't address that. Well, I didn't address those because they were too fast for me to get a good grasp on those thoughts, and then they'll just appear, and then they'll go, and then I'll move on. This scenario, which happened to me several times, I can now clearly see his feeding pattern. First, he will find an old event or incident, so he can just scrape at it, because there might not be any wound, or it might be already well healed, or even if it is small, it has to be scraped. So he's going to go on the attack and scrape that.